Then
you're recording. Do I have to hit continue?
Official, yeah. I don't know.
I did.
Okay, so we're good.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So we're good. And I don't know if like this. Do we really have to? We should kind of view the audience, right? I mean, I don't know.
That way they can't fall asleep on me.
Max is out of frame, but
No, I mean, it's okay.
no, they aren't going to fall asleep.
I'm sorry, because I'm going to be looking at my screen.
Okay. All right, take it away.
Okay. Hi, thanks for joining. Glad you all made it to school safely today with this crazy weather. So I'm Mrs. Urban. I help out with, advise for the design of Flight. I'm a graphic designer, so I work with all the programs that will be used for laying out the publication. The hopes is that you gentlemen will take the reins and do most of the layout and design, and then Mr. Urban and I are here to assist. So if this gives you free rein for any design ideas, creativity, thoughts, feel free to think out of the box, and then we can always bring you back in. So if you see publications that you like as far as any design, any styles, any fonts, it's always a good reference. Just like any sort of trait, I look at other designs and publications, and will kind of mimic things that I find interesting as well, or it can just follow a template, whichever you like. So don't feel that you have to follow what we've done in years past. Am I right on that, Mr. Urban? It can change?
Yep.
Okay, so don't feel you have to follow what's been in years past, anything from the font to the colors. As of last year and moving forward, is my understanding, the entire book is in full color, which is great for the photography and for the artwork. So you can use that with the font and the text itself, which opens the book to doing anything with color bars, backgrounds, reversing text, headers, drop caps, all kinds of things like that. So since this is the beginning, I just wanted to show you some of the possibilities, how to get started with the program. I'm not sure how many of you individuals are going to be working in the program itself, but at least you'll be able to see how it's done. And then what I'm showing today, there's a lot more capabilities past what I'm going to show, but this is the start. So if you've worked the program before, great, you're off to a good start. If not, I'm going to show you kind of the basics of what the tools do and how to get started. So with that, I thought I would just start with last year's, which we have on the screen here. This is a PDF of the pages. So I wanted to show you what the final product was and then kind of backtrack on how we got there based on the elements to build the book itself. So here is our pretty cover. I believe Mr. Urban is in charge of collecting all the images, be it photography, artwork, drawings from all the classes, pictures for ceramics and such. So that's the staff itself will pick out the cover, and this is the cover that we used last year. So kind of keep in mind as you're collecting materials for this year what you think would really pop as a cover for this year. And then always the first page is a gradient of the cover itself. So that one's always in that place right there. Then we have our table of contents. And this year, we've done it different from year to year. Mr. Urban can tell if we want to put the book as far as before we've done like poetry or just stories. I don't know the order of the book this year or if there's going to be one. I don't know if you're going to be grouping up the entries themselves. Looks like last year we kind of just went, there wasn't an order, was there, that I see? I don't know. So we reference here, so we have, I'm sorry.
It was just chronological.
Yeah. And then, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, now I can, yeah.
It was just chronological, to your point, yes. And then to flight staff, we are very writing submission dominant this year. I still have to put like 20 more writings in the Google Drive submission. So that means, what does that mean? It means we actually have to like choose this year what's getting printed in writing. We are woefully low on submissions of art, our visuals. I don't know what. So when I emailed you guys this morning, I did write in the email that we might there might be a little bit of shakedown. I talked to John yesterday about John might be putting more in. I think, it's like weird. I think John tends to defer to like, well, I think each issue the last few years, it's like, I'll make one submission or whatever. And it's like, if we have to saturate a little bit with John and Van Weinman and Colin Wheeler and Mitchell Klein, and like, if we have to do a little art, if we have to shake the art tree a little bit, then we might need to do that, because we have texts for days. We have prose and poetry for days. We do not have a lot of art. So I needed to add that in, Rick. So thank you.
Sure. No, absolutely. So it seems like last year we just put stuff in, and I know in years past you have broken out the categories with prose and poetry. So here's the table of contents. So the person can see what page they're on for reference, and then the staff is here. Letter from the editor, which we added last year, which I thought was really great. So that's the beginning of the book, just to give you an idea. And then, so as you go through the book, last year, as Mr. Urban was saying, we had a lot of artwork to go with the stories themselves. So you can see how it was integrated. So for this page, we had a full image, and then we had the text on top, which was reversed. And then the page across from it, so this is page 4. And then the page across from it, which is page 5, is the rest, or a different story, I believe. And then, so this was one page, one spread. It was one photo going across the whole page, right?
Yeah.
So photos can be treated like that. And then I believe the next one is just placed in the page itself, the photo. And then across from that is a story, as a poem. So pages could be thought of as spreads, which are when you open up the book, you have the left and the right-hand page. So you can think of that as an entire canvas, or you can think of just designing a left-hand page and different than a right-hand page. So it depends on how long your story is, what type of photo you have that you like to use. So the left-hand pages are always even numbers, and the right-hand pages are always odd numbers. Now I will send a template that has the page size, the numbers in there for you already, but just to give you an idea that don't be moving the page numbers around, because that's the flow. Even is always on the left. So here's just last year's, which I'm sure you've seen or you can reference just to kind of get an idea. So what I wanted to go over today was, so here's the final piece, then how did we get to that? So we use InDesign, which is on a computer at school and in the classroom, I believe. I don't know, to be honest, but I'm told
it's in this room.
Okay.
And it'll be a single device, no remote capacity, no remote access. I know I don't know, still sort of in the Stone Age. I don't mind that it's on-site access. It keeps us honest in one regard. It's just, there is a limit there. Rick, what program do companies use, like for the situation you're in, where you're remote accessing a PC from home? What program do you use?
Well, I remote into my Mac.
Right.
We use Splashtop.
What is that?
Splashtop is what we use.
Splash, is that a program or what is that?
No, it's a remote software. So
okay.
Yeah, so I can log in from my computer here to my computer at work. But I know there's a whole bunch of different softwares.
The engineering department does that. I took an engineering class freshman year, and they had a way to connect to computers remotely.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to try and ask them, like, because they're here.
I wonder, what do you think, Mr. Fistek? Is that reasonable, or?
You want guys to be able to work from home. It's up to you.
I'm sure there's some kind of, I'm sure it's more of a security concern about, if a student's accessing that Mac, but yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into so the short answer is we are landlocked. The long answer is, as you know, it might not be a bad idea. Mrs. Urban is aware of the futility of us trying to have a remote option the last 3, 4, 5 years. It's been difficult, and some of it's been a lot to do with there's just been quirks and the support's not always available, and SCHS Tech owes, they owe a lot to the building rather than to like a side initiative, and it just got real clunky. Just was not ever really consistent, and so here we are still. So yeah. Long story short, we're back to a single computer in this classroom, and that's what they'll be working on. Thank you, Rick.
Sure. Okay. So here is the basis of InDesign. So InDesign is a page layout. So it starts with the canvas of the page, and then you add your elements. So adding text is one element, adding your image is another element, and then within that program, or this program, you can move around the text, the image, you can change colors, shapes, all kinds of things. But this is the basis for putting those together. I was just going to show you, like this was last year's file, that page that we just looked at. Let me get rid of all these lines.
Do we know, I know I added the quote in there. Did somebody else lay out of that spread? Like Ben, and was that you and Matt? Like,
yeah, I remember like the actual, this one was weird because when we first had it, there was a lot more on the left side of the picture.
yeah.
So like the lights were like right on the side. So I think we tried to like shift it over so that you could like see the text better.
Yeah, so it was cropped a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, again, and Ben, who you met earlier, Rick, what he and Matt Quinn they had their hands on the magazine a lot last year. So
Turned out great.
John already has some working familiarity. Mr. Fistek you're already golden on this. Max is kind of getting onboarded. So these next directions are kind of like, all right, that's the inventory of the group in the room. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Okay. So whoever laid out this page last year, then you're familiar. Yeah, and it turned out great. So I was going to start with just the blank page and then show you how we get to that. So we have our white page here is our trim. So this is the actual size of the book itself when it's opened up with 2 pages. So this is page 6 and 7. This red line around the outside is called our bleed line. So you can see on this here, this image went all the way to the bleed, which I can zoom so you want to see. Because when you trim something, you want extra on the other side so that when you trim it, you don't have a white line of the paper because things shift. So that's what that is. So if you have an image or text that you want to go off the page so it gets cut off, go to that red line. And then just for safety's sake, we have this, oops, sorry, I'm driving here. We have this pink line. So that's where we want to keep everything safe. So if we don't want it cut off, if we want to make sure that it's red, not too close to the edge, we want to keep that within this pink line here, all the way to the box itself.
You know, and that acknowledges the staple margin inside too, like the bind. You just lose visibility, you know, so that kind of indicates that to us as the layout folk.
Right. So here, like we did a great job here, and it just, you know, if you go too far to the edge, it just might get cut off. And so it's just to make sure your stuff is safe. So that's what that is. So if we have a page here that we want to lay out, so we have some text that we want to put into it, and we have an image that we want to put into it. So there's multiple ways to do it. I'll just show the first way. So we have this black arrow is like our main selection tool. That's how we move things around. But I'm going to go up here and I can go File, and I think I'm going to do Place, right? Yeah, so we'll do File, Place, because we want to place something within the document. And I think I made some stuff here. Yes, so it's going to pull up your dialog box here, and I had already made a folder. We will set up folders on the computer, which will already be there. So we're going to have our Flight 2022, and then I always break up it into separate folders. So we have our layout, which is this program, so it's the file that we have here in the layout. Images will be any images that are submitted, and then copy will be any of the stories that Mr. Urban is placed in there to be placed, I'm sure, right? So, so I'll just go back and do that one more time. So I did File, Place. And I went ahead into our copy. I like to start with the copy. You could always start with the photo first. So I had already put some in there from last year just for reference. So I'm gonna grab one. So this is our happiness story. So I'm gonna click open and it did nothing. There we go. Oh, I gotta do my text tool. I'm sorry. So I have to do my text tool first. See, I went through all that. I have to draw a box because within this box is gonna go the text. The text has no place to go if I don't give it a box. So you see I have my little blinking cursor there. My apologies. And then I will go to file, place, and then get my text. My apologies there. And so the text is gonna go within that box. So from here is where you can format the text. So this blue box here shows my text is within there. Sometimes you'll have a whole lot of text that gets thrown into the box and your box isn't big enough, and you'll get this red line here, this red box. Can you see? I don't know if you can see that. This lets you know that there's more text.
There's more there.
Yeah. So if you're done with the story and you're like, oh, that fits great, but you have this, it means that there's more text within there and you can double click it, and or you can pull your box down and it copies it for you. And you can do another box if you double click on the red. But usually just the quickest, easiest way is just to pull down the box itself until all the text is in there. Okay, so there's all our text. Now from here, I'll get rid of all these lines for you. Now from here is where, I don't know why I did this, but we'll ignore that. It didn't like that font choice. That's just my computer. So from here you can choose your format as far as your font. I'm not sure as a font what you're going to decide to go with, if each page is going to be different, if it's going to reflect the story, whatever you choose, but I'll just show you. So with your T tool here that is selected, that's for your text. So once you select your text, you can change it. And you can decide to change just one letter, you can change a whole line, or the entire story itself. And then in the upper corner here, in the upper left-hand corner, we have our font choices. And it gives you a little preview of what the font looks like. And you can scroll through and pick your font or change your font, whatever you decide on. I'll just pick a font there. And then from here, you can pick the size, meaning how big you want the font size. So the top number up here next to the font that you chose is the size of it, the point size. You can change it there. And then the number underneath it is how far the lines are, it's the leading, how far the lines are apart. So you can increase that or decrease that, however you like. Now this is really, you can do anything with it. You can go like a crazy, not that you can read it, but that can also be a treatment as well if you want to do something crazy. So you can do anything there. And then again, just make sure that once that's done, you have everything fitting. Now if you get to where it doesn't fit, we can click on that red box and just draw it over here on the next page and it will overflow. So we make sure that the red box is going to have all the words. Now from here, okay, so we have our text laid out. We see that we can change the font to anything. We can change the font size, anything. Now if you want to change the color to anything, again, we're going to use our T tool because that's for our text. You can highlight whatever you would like to change the color. And I'll go up here to window. And we have a whole color palette, color, and here's our color. Oh, swatches, I apologize, it's swatches. Now here is our swatch panel. The T is for our text, so we want to change our text color. We can select any color and change it to that. We can also create a color. Over here is our options, and we can do new color swatch, and it pops up a whole panel where you can create your own colors in CMYK. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to create something. And then say I wanted a brown, I would just add it to my swatches. And then it's done, and here it is here. And then you can go through whatever you like. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, so there's our text. Then I'm going to show how you can add an image now. So I have my text, now I want to add an image. So for image, we're going to go to our file, place. We're going to pop up that box again, our dialog box, and now we're going to go to our image. And I believe the last time we used one of these, I don't know. So I'm going to grab an image. Here's one. That's like today. Okay, and so this pops up, this shows that we have a picture, and what we can do is we can do one or two things. We can do a click and drag and kind of the size and spot that we would like that image. So that's what I did there. Or we can just do a single click and it will do the whole huge image itself. So if this happens, I usually zoom out and you can see the whole blue bar, which is where the image is. And don't panic. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd it go? You can just click and drag the box back onto the page itself. And I can't really see over here. And then within, there's a whole bunch of options as you start to mess around more with the palettes and the drop-down menus. But up here on the top, it's called Auto Fit, which I use a lot. So if it's selected in blue, I can go here to Auto Fit, which will make the image fit within my box. But then I always do the proportionally so that the image will proportionally fit so I don't mess up everybody's artwork within there. So you can do the drag and click or just single click. I usually do drag and click because it saves a couple. And then I'm going to click back off that. Okay, so notice as I'm moving things around, I go to the black selection tool is how I move things around. Now say I have this here and I decide I want to move the picture within the box. So you see we have a circle within the box here, within our picture box, and then we get a hand tool that appears if I hold over top of it. We can move the picture within that square. So we can crop it however we would like. So that's kind of fun. Can move that around. Okay, and then just to show you some colors. So on this page, we have the choice. We can do color to text. We can also do color lines. So say this is which is our text, our box for our image, sorry. We can give this a color on the border. So over in our swatches, we have one here that's an entire box, and then we have one that is a line. So this is the line of the box, which is the outside. I'll just show you, we'll give that a color. And so that colors the box itself on the outside. And we can also extend this just to show you, we can give it a background color as well, and I'll give it the blue. So the image itself stops here, but we made the box bigger and gave that a color, so then there's a color behind it. So you could always make a color around it if you want to put some text here. And I don't know what you use it for, but those are some of the options. And then there's also the option, we have a whole bunch of other tools here. We always have the option of drawing a shape itself. So within here, we can make a rectangle and see how there's a little arrow off to the tool here itself. If you click and hold that, it gives you more options. So you can do a rectangle, a circle, all kinds of shapes. So say you want to draw a shape, and the same thing here. You can go back to the swatches. You can give it a color. You can give it an outline. Let's give that one out. You can move it around. Anything you'd want to do to it. And then from here you can see the colors and stuff popped up here. This is just as you're playing around, say, oh, I really like that. What do I want to do with it? You can, this number here is for the outside line, the stroke. You can make it thicker. There's all kinds of things, all kinds of different strokes and things you can do to it. So just showing you, you can mess around, you're not going to hurt anything. And then you can always delete it, move it if you don't like it. So there's that, right? What else am I missing? So I showed you how to import text. I showed you how to change the color, showed you how to bring in a photo.
About text over image, like overlay stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay. So this program works in layers. So there's everything you put on here, although you're seeing it as one, like two-dimensional, the program reads it as layers. So right now, this text is on top of this box is on top of this box. So it's called arrange. The tool is called arrange. So over here, if we go to object and we're going to arrange, we can bring things to front. So it will bring it in front of everything else on the page or behind it. So say, like Mr. Urban was saying, say you decide that you would like, I'll get rid of that, some text on top of the image. That's kind of a bad example, but so right now, so we know the text is there, but we can't see it. Well, the image is in front of it. So we can do one of two things. We can bring the text in front of it, or we can put the photo behind it. So I'm going to choose to bring the text in front of the photo. So right now the text has the blue box, so that's the one that's selected. So you can go to Object, Arrange, and we're going to bring that to front. So then we can see it, kind of see it. So from here, if you want to be able to read it, we can choose to color the text. So we're going to click on it. You can double click it inside and highlight it, or you can go to the T tool to highlight it. We're going to go to our swatches and you can give it a color. So right now it's black. We can make it white, and it's still going to kind of be hard to read. You can give it an outline. You can make it bigger. These are kind of a hard example, but we can make it bigger, a little bit easier to read, move it around. I think we did some of this last year, yeah. Oh, on this page, yeah. You could also change it to make it more bold. So here I can select this font. Again, you can go and change your selection. So right now it's on Helvetica Light. You can make it bold, italic, so you can read a little bit better. So those types of things. And this is when the sizes would come into play if you were trying to make it fit over an image. Does that make sense? And then say I wanted to add just, you know, a color behind my W. I could put the box over there, and then I want to bring the text to front. So things like that. Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Urban?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so although you see it as two-dimensional, the program thinks of everything as layers. So sometimes it will like kind of, I still get freaked out. Sometimes I'll move something around. I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd my text go? It's like, oh, it's behind it. Or oh, where's that? Or it's in front. So if you know something's there, but you can't see it, go to the Arrange tool and move the objects to front or back, and it should appear. Let's see what else. Oh, the program itself does not save. So you have to be sure to save on your own, because right now it hasn't saved anything. If I close out of it, I have missed everything I've done if I don't say save. And it also has pretty much unlimited undos. So Command Z is my friend, that's undo. I can sit and hit that, and it would just take us all the way back to the beginning. So don't be afraid to try things. It's not going to save over them. It's not going to ruin your work. You will tell it when to save, and you can always undo what you've done. But if you are happy with what you've done, please save, because it won't do it on its own.
Yeah, and keep in mind that that's Control Z, right, Rick?
Control Z is my friend, yeah.
Yeah, like, and that could even
I'm sorry,
be like
Command Z.
Command Z, excuse me. Even when we were laying out, like, you could almost treat Command Z as like this was your mind on design, or this was your mind on layout, and you can go back and forth and have it, because then you might land in the middle, or you might land at the end, or you might
Yeah,
say, I like that first idea from way back 15 minutes ago in the session, and it's still kind of a living doc, which is kind of nice, you know. So
Yeah, so don't be afraid to try things. You're really not going to mess it up. If you do get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, you saved over something, you did something, we can always go back to it and recreate it, as long as we have the original content, which Mr. Urban has everything. So I wouldn't be worried about messing anything up.
And Max, did you have a question?
Oh yeah. I was just gonna ask, how do you bring those lines back and make them disappear and everything?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm trying to think of I use all my shortcut commands. So I hit W. So just hitting W will bring the lines and take them away.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just W?
just W. I think it's like one of these view something. I don't even know. View, hide.
W works for me. That's fine.
W works, right. And then these blue lines that we'd used in the past for headers. So we wanted the header in the same spot for every page. So these don't have to be used, but that's what we had done. So say you decide you want your header just be in your headline to be in the exact same spot every time. Every page has these in the same spot. So we were able to put our text box there to make sure it hit at the same spot on every page. So you don't have to use these lines. I can actually remove them or keep them. It's up to you. They're my master page. Let's see what else. It's really the basics. Like I said, once you're in there, if you feel like you want to experiment with some things or see what a tool does, go ahead, give it a try. You're not going to mess anything up. Those are just the basics, and the pull down menus give you a lot of options. Like one thing too with the text tool, it has this little arrow here where you have other options. You can do a type on path tool. So say you draw, you want the text to go like a certain shape, you can draw a shape and put it on there. I don't know, too crazy, but it's pretty much, there's just a whole bunch of options that you can do. So this, let's see. So weird, I don't usually have an audience. So you would click text on the tool, the line, and you can type things out, and you tell it how to go. It's but anyway, sorry. But so those are just some of the options. So you could just mess around, like I just did that. Hey, what's this do? Hey, what's this do? You can draw with a pencil if you want to draw a weird shape. It just, these wouldn't be used for what you're trying to do. That's for loading certain objects if you're doing a different design. Gradients, I guess I can show that one real quick because I know we got about 10 more minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so under Windows where we had our color, gradients, which, oh, there it is, it's right there. So this is part of colors, obviously it's a gradient color. So you could do your box, sorry, give it a gradient. And then from here, within the gradient, we have the colors, the black and the white. And within this gradient bar, you can add the colors you would like. And then you can delete colors you don't like. And then from here, the gradient right now is going from left to right. You can change it into this angle, and it can go 90 degrees, 45 degrees, whatever you'd like. And then this diamond here, you can change where the gradient starts. So it could be more white, more purple. And you can have as many colors as you want. It's kind of neat how it knows how to do all that. That's kind of cool too. And you can just change the location.
I got a question. Is there a way to apply the gradient on the uploaded picture?
Well, they did it on this one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was gonna ask about. Is this just a gradient to white? I don't know.
Which page is it? Yeah.
It's page 10.
That was,
Page 10.
I would venture you did that gradient, Rick.
Okay, so right here.
Pretty sure you did that and not one of.
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah. So the images itself, yes, we can do gradients on those. If you go up into, I believe it's objects. Yes. So again, we're on the selection tool onto the image itself, the photo, and we go to object, effects. Okay, and that was a great question. Thank you. So here's a whole bunch of things we can do to the image itself. So to get that, I went to directional feather. Here it is over here, directional feather. And you can see, even once you're in here, it gives you that option that you can try all the effects within this pop-up box. So here it looks like, yeah, so on the left-hand side of the image, we went ahead and made it fade on the left-hand side. And if you just increase that, it'll fade it even more. And you can also do the top, the bottom. So each side here is individually because I didn't click the link. If you click the link, it does them all together. So right, great question. So that's what we did there. And then the cool part is, so there's that. And then say from here, we do have it grading to white because there's nothing behind the image itself, but we can put a color box back there. And we can send that to back. There's gonna be my right click works too, to pull up a lot of the options. And you can always put a color behind it as well, so it fades to a color. But if there's no color, then it's going to fade to your white. All right, and what are some of your other options in there? Yep, you can give it a drop shadow. Yeah, you can mess around with these. The different types of feathers just do different things. This one does like all the edges around and gives it like a feather look, almost like in an old photograph or something like that. that one does that. So great question.
As we're getting ready to close, keep in mind for staffers that, you know, Mrs. Urban and I can arrange like on-site stuffs, or not on-site, but like if there's a concern or like a technique that you'd like to try to flesh out or that needs to be walked through. If it's like a 10, 15-minute check-in, we can obviously maybe formalize that and treat it as like this, rather than it having to be like, it doesn't necessarily need to be some whole session. We all get it, like in terms of noodling, like Matt and Ben and John kind of noodled a lot last year and laid out an entire magazine. And, you know, and I'm sure there were things that maybe weren't satisfactory to you, or things that Mrs. Urban and I were cleaning up on the back end. And there's some ebb and flow and play with all of that. So, you know, as you guys are like, especially I would say, you know, and we've talked quite a bit earlier in the year about, you know, layout and about like, hey, what are, you know, what could give the document a new look? Do we want to, like, again, we've had a pretty classic look for Flight for a long time. We're allowed to play as much as we want. So if you guys have a vision, like, and even if that day's session's over and you're clicking save, and in your mind you're like, this still is not what I am envisioning, and I want that thing I'm envisioning, that's when you just communicate to me. And then maybe, again, it could be a Mrs. U tutorial, or it could be something else, you know, some other support, maybe a live tutorial like this, or maybe she records a quick clip and says, hey, here's how to do this, or we find, you know, that can be done. So just kind of, you know, as we start to really sit down and go, okay, we have a ton of text. We're not gonna have any issues with body copy. This issue, our issues right now are we don't have a lot of visual stuffs, but you know, hey, like we'll figure that out. But you know, as all this starts to come together, it's like, you know, the perfunctory part of getting the thing on the page, you know, maybe this year we can say, hey, let's still try to keep our eyes on the long view and say, I don't want to be satisfied with it just being on the page. Is there a theme we're going for? Do we want to use certain effects in certain ways on certain pages, certain spreads? You know, like, is there a vision you have color wise? You know, those things can all be kind of retrofitted or whatever, you know? So, then I don't know if you had anything else, Rick.
No, those are just the basics. So just don't be afraid to play around with a, you know.
And then
give it a
any
try.
other questions from staff? Okay, and then the other questions for me will be more for me in terms of I will make sure our file is on that computer behind Mr. Fistek. We will have folders organized so you guys know where you're grabbing image, grabbing text. You'll know which spreads you're in. We usually break the magazine up into 3. What would you call those, Rick? Just three sections,
Different
or
files, yeah. So we have the front of the book is one file, the middle is
that
one
kind
file.
of originated back in the day. Our middle 8 pages used to be color only.
Yeah.
And now we're all color, but it still helps to kind of see the book in parts, you know. That will get taken care of. And so I guess I'm saying in short, and then there's some other instructions I'll email you guys, but we can start laying out as early as next week. I'll make sure you guys have login credentials to this computer. And are there any other questions anyone has that we're good? I think we're good, Rick. I don't know if there's any closing statement you needed to make, or.
Well, no, just have fun with it and keep your eyes open for cover ideas.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of, we have to keep our eyes open for a lot of images, period. For some reason, we don't have a lot this year. So, but we also know where to root these guys out. We know which guys are the usual suspects. So, case in point, the one that's on the screen, Van Weinman is a big, he's a big illustrator in and around campus. So we'll shoehorn him in there. So, but okay, well, thank you, Mrs. Urban. Thank you for your advising. And then we appreciate your willingness to be on camera so we can use this as a reference moving forward.
Of course.
And I guess that's it. So have a good afternoon. I will thank you for picking up our children. Careful out there.
When are you looking? And I know when are you looking to go to print for this one? Don't you usually look in April, May?
I always say late April.
Late April. All right. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
So did she stop the recording? Probably. Yeah, we're good.
No, you have to.
You're so right.
Ooh, still
That's the
recording.
fault.
Ugh. Right here.
Yeah, there you go.